Researching artifacts at Space Station 14 is honestly a really simple process, but being able to understand all of it and be very efficient with it can be rather complex. I will explain it as quickly as possible and hopefully with as much clarity as possible. One key item you need to research effectively on artifacts is your node scanner. There is a guaranteed node scanner in every single scientist locker on round start. There are simple artifacts, there are medium artifacts, and complex artifacts. This dictates how many possible nodes there can be to activate, which means that's how many research points you can get, and potentially how deep in depth it can get for how complex it can get. I will keep it simple though, and since you can't actually know this in game, I'm just going to pick a medium artifact, and these artifacts come in handheld variants so you can pick them up, or versions where you have to drag them, which means you can also anchor them. Artifacts that can be picked up can also be put in your bag. They're only a 2x2, so they're very easy and convenient to transport. They're also usually easier to handle, and I just accidentally activated that one because its first node was examination. So artifacts usually will start off on depth 0. However, some artifacts will auto-activate without you even knowing, so they might not start on depth 0. I picked a medium artifact that I know is on node 0 because it did not auto-activate in my presence. You can always left-click an artifact with a node scanner to figure out its node. So now I know we are on node 590. And we're going to want to scan this first so we can actually figure out what we need to do and where we're going from here. Before this scans though, there are two buttons specific. There is the up button, which toggles a bias an artifact has in moving between its nodes heading upwards towards that 0 depth, which is where we start. Then there's down, which toggles a bias of an artifact in moving between its nodes heading towards even higher depths. That language can be confusing, and I will literally draw a chart to try to make this make more sense. So here we are. We are at depth 0, node 590, with 2 edges. So I will draw out a chart to try to make this sense. Also, I highly recommend you print out each step you get to. So this, if you shift click it, will specifically say node 590. And when I play science, I like to physically place these pieces of paper on the ground to draw out a chart in game. However, drawing a chart out of game can be very helpful. So I'm going to literally use paint to draw out this chart. So we are on node 590, and forgive my awful penmanship. And this is the starting node. So we are on depth 0, and it has 2 edges. This means that I don't know where this will branch to, but that means that this artifact will branch out this way, and it will branch out this way. So now we have 2 unknown nodes we have not explored yet. So that means we are going to have to continue researching this artifact to understand where we are going. We can see, well, we're at that fork in the road. We just have this piece of paper and nowhere to go. So if I change the bias to go down, we are more likely going to go down to depth 1 and either left or right on the chart. There's no way to influence which edge we go to, but we can influence we will go down. So we have activated the first artifact, and now of course it's got to be an annoying one where it starts moving away. That is okay though. We can still scan this, and now we know we are node 597, so we are indeed on a different node than what we previously had. So we have hit a new fork in the road. We are at depth 1, edge 3. So now we will print this out. And like I said, I like to draw like a physical map, so we'll move this up to give us more room. And there's no way of knowing if we will left or right, it's just a visualization. If we go back to the paint though, we can now replace one of these question marks with the 597. And we are on depth 1 with 3 edges. Those 3 edges mean that one of the edges is actually going back up. However, that means there is 2 more unexplored edges to go down into depth 2 with. So now we have more branching paths that we do not know the nodes of, and we do not know how many edges they may have. They may be dead ends or not. However, this node we are on is not a dead end, and 2/3 of the ways is to future tech. I have activated the artifact once more, and we could tell that we have gone to a new node because it is 225. The extract button also becomes green immediately if it is a new node you have not been to before. Every time you reach a node you have not been to before, you will get more research points out of it, and you can extract that. So now we have node 225. We're going to print that out, and we just put it here for visualization. And now we have 225, which this is depth 2, edge 1. So that means this is a dead end. There is no other path to go other than backwards. So we have completely reached our limit here. So now I'm going to go back to the analysis console, and you could change the bias to go upwards, but that doesn't make a difference because it can't go down anymore. So if I activate this, it's automatically going to go back to node 597 because there's nowhere for this to go. If I activate it, we will see this is true. We are back to 597. So that means we could go over to our 597 paper, and if you can't remember, we could just reactivate this stimulus immediately to try to not go to 225. We could try to go to the other unknown node. So let me reactivate this, and we hope we get lucky. Nope, we are back to 225, so we need to keep reactivating it until we're not on 225. There we go. We have got the new unknown node. We have node 646, and now we need to rescan this. Now we are on node 646, and this has more interesting implications and is starting to make a somewhat complex chart because of its depths and edges. On paint, we now have 646, which is at a depth 2, edge 3, which if you remember, the 3 edges mean 1 is the way back and 2 are the way forward. So now we are back to this again. We're back to another branching path. Don't forget to print out your piece of paper first, and we will try to plot it just like our paint looks like in-game. This is dangerous if you do this in-game, by the way, because paper can burn and artifacts often burn things, but you could do this in another room if you want that's safe, or like put it in a folder and just try to keep a better mental note of it. But anyways, we are going to activate this and see where we go. So we have hit node 380. That is even deeper down the line, meaning that we have progressed. And now at this point, we must scan it in order to learn more of where we can go or where we can go back to. So now we are on node 380, and we have hit another dead end because it is only one edge and it is depth 3. So I can drop this off somewhere like so. And yes, in science, creatures will die. That is just the law of nature. So once more, back to the paint chart. We have hit 380. That is depth 3. However, only one edge. So now we again officially know that this is a dead end. And that is honestly, I think, should be enough to explain the whole process. So now when we reactivate the artifact, we will shoot back up to 646, and we can either go to the unexplored one that we do not know anything about, or we'll probably end up back down to 380 as long as we keep the analysis console to keep going into deeper depths. I don't even know if it's possible to shoot back up to 597. If it's that way, I honestly haven't really paid enough attention in-game to know if you can go backwards with the analysis console set properly. But as long as we have it set to go deeper, we're going to keep ping-ponging back between these two. And again, in-game, oh my god, what happened when I was alt-tabbed? As long as we keep the node scanner, and we keep our pieces of paper on hand like this, we can always re-examine quickly what is happening with the current nodes and should be able to research effectively without having to rescan the console every single time. So at this point in time, you can decide if you want to try to 100% complete an artifact. A lot of this is obviously going to be based off how difficult the artifact is to actually handle. Some artifacts are really easy to get through, some are a pain in the ass. So it isn't based off completionist. However, completing every node obviously will maximize the amount of time you get with each artifact and how many points you get. You aren't always going to be in the luxury of having 5,000 artifacts to play with, so sometimes you just have to deal with it, and keeping a proper chart can make it easier to 100% these artifacts. Hopefully this makes sense. I think this is the best way to explain it. Anyways, thank you for watching.